Hello, so in this video we will be going over how to do a wash and go, and this particular client of mine, she has type 4 hair. I feel like you see a lot of wash and go videos on looser curl patterns but not enough on type 4 textures. And so with this particular client I'm going to show you two techniques just so you can see the differences in what you may like to do. You can see the results of how the outcome is to see which one you like better. So I am applying some gel to her hair. So this is the I Create Hold gel by Intersense, and I used a good amount on her hair. Her hair is very wet at this time, and you want to make sure when you are applying your gel that your hair is the same. You want to make sure your hair is very wet before you apply any styling products. And as you can tell, I did not apply any leave-in conditioner. Typically for my wash and goes, I don't apply any leave-in conditioner. Simply because the leave-in conditioner can sometimes counteract with the styling products, and I don't want to have a build-up on the hair or affect the way the hair dries and the longevity of the definition from the styling product. So sometimes with my wash and goes, I do not use leave-in conditioner. So as you can see, I applied a good amount, probably about a silver dollar size amount for her whole head. Now if your hair is thicker or longer, then you want to apply more, but also keep in mind that this is the results that I wanted for her hair and we both agreed on. My client works out a lot, so she needed more hold than your average person. So I'm going to use a little more gel than I would somebody else who lifestyle may be a little different or just may desire a different result. So like I said, it's up to you with how much or how less, but you kind of will gauge based on the results you want. So as you can see, I put a little bit of foam on her as well, just because the foam helps to add some softness to it and also is easier for manipulation. So as you can see, I'm just taking my comb, the rat tail end comb, barely like a zigzag part. My subsections are about an inch wide, inch or two wide, and all I'm doing is just taking my fingers and hitting a twirl. That's it. It doesn't have to be ultra tight because you want it to mimic a natural texture, but I'm literally just guiding the curl so that it has more defined curl to it and more hold. So starting at the bottom of the neck and the nape, working my way up the head, you would do the same thing. Now feel free, you don't have to use a comb like I am. A comb just helps me to keep everything separated, but if you decided, hey, I just want to use my fingers and go through and finger coil the sides myself, you can definitely do that. It will have a more natural look as far as the roots won't be as exposed, versus when you do the individual one like this with me using the comb, you do see a bit more scalp. So if you want to see less scalp, like I said, don't use a comb, just use your fingers and twirl as you go. But this will definitely give you great long-lasting curls without having to use a ton of product and manipulation. And so I'm just going to keep working up the head, and like I said, once I get to the top, I'm going to show you how I use the products and my fingers, so I won't be using any combs once I get to the top, and you can still see she'll have great definition once I get to the top. So keep watching and learning, and I'll be back to talk to you about how to style the top without a comb. Now if you do decide to use both a gel and a foam, make sure you apply the foam directly to the hair. So as you saw, like in the beginning of the video, I sprayed the foam right onto her hair. I didn't put it in my hand first and then put it on her hair. I put it right on her hair, aiming right for her roots. That is crucial because you want to make sure you get even saturation and good saturation on each hair strand, so that way you have a good even curl and even hold. So I just want to point that out to you all. And if you decided to use gel only, you could apply a lighter gel first Typically, the lighter gel that I typically use is Uncle Funky's Daughter Curly Magic. It's like an aloe-based gel, and typically you would apply that first. Apply a good bit first, and then go over and add the I Create Hold or whichever gel you prefer. Typically, I go back and forth between I Create Hold and I Create Volume, both by Intersense, and it depends on the results you want. So if your hair, let's say your hair was finer and you like volume, then you would top this off, or you would apply the I Create Volume gel first and then go in with your foam, or not. Don't use any foam, just use the gel. But in any case, you want to make sure your hair is definitely very, very wet before you apply these products, because these products are very rich, and if you apply too much without enough water, they will cake up on you or have certain signs of like residue, white residue, and nobody wants that, right? So remember to make sure it's very, very wet, and make sure to evenly distribute as you're taking your subsections. Okay, so we have finally made it to the top, and right now you'll see me add some more product. Since I didn't put any foam up there, right now my client, she currently only had the gel on her hair. So I'm just going through to kind of add some foam to the top. As you can see, I'm working it in, taking just some smooth and stroking motions. And so I was just asking her at that point which way she wanted her hair to fall. And this is the point you want to ask yourself that too once you get to the top. How do I want my hair to fall? That will determine where you kind of guide the hair. So as you can see, I'm only using my hands. And you want to make sure too, I forgot to say it in the first part, but you want to make sure too that when you are doing this technique for your wash and go, this will be after your hair is fully detangled. That's the only reason why I'm breathing through her hair this easy. If your hair is not detangled, it won't go this well. So going back to the technique, I'm just taking my fingers, taking subsections as same if I would if I was working with the comb, but I'm literally just going through and hitting a little twirl on the end. Now if you didn't want to do a twirl, you definitely could, but I would say you would probably want to do the technique that I mentioned in the previous video of making sure that you have the proper gels to give you the same amount of hold. But with this particular client, I didn't want to use as much gel, just because I still wanted her to have some movement within her hair. But you could totally just double up on the gels that I mentioned in the previous video if you didn't want to do a swirl on the ends. But as you can see, I'm literally just using my hands and just going through, taking subsections, even within my subsections, to specifically individualize those curls. So going through still and just taking my time, working from the back of the head all the way up to the front. It's pretty much that simple, y'all. The key things you want to remember is just to make sure your hair is wet. Make sure you're taking your time with your subsections. Try not to grab so much hair. The more hair you grab, let's say for example, the amount of hair I'm grabbing right now is pretty small. But if I grab too much, you wouldn't be able to see nowhere near the amount of definition that you see. So it's all about what you want. If you like the chunkier look and you don't want ultra defined curls, maybe just a little bit, take a larger section. If you want even more of a defined curl look, take even smaller sections. But I'm all about simplicity, but also about accommodating what you want out of your hair. So as you can see, some pieces I'll hit a twirl, some pieces I won't, some pieces don't need it. It's all in what the look you want it to be. So feel free to keep watching and see how I style the front as well. But after this, you would sit under a hooded dryer. Now I want to talk about dryers for a second, because I know some people like to air dry, some people like to diffuse, or sit under a hooded dryer. Typically I'm always going to sit my clients under a hood dryer, and even if I was doing a wash and go on myself, I would always sit under a hood dryer to dry. The reason being is because hood dryers allow your hair to set way better and at an even rate versus doing a diffuser or air drying. Air drying, you may not get the same finish or the same set or hold that you would if you would sit under a hooded dryer. So that's why I'm always going to suggest sitting under a hood dryer after your wash and go. If you were drying your hair from a twist out as well or something like that, my vote would still be a hooded dryer, unless you're drying your hair overnight, then that's different. But I will always push a hood dryer over anything else. And underneath this video in the description, you'll see my recommendations on hooded dryers, so that way you can get the best results out of your hair. If you do diffuse your hair, like I said, just know that it may not last as long as it could if you would sit under a hooded dryer. Typically the average drying time it would take for a wash and go, typically it can range from anywhere as short as 20 minutes, sometimes for 45 minutes. It just depends on how thick your hair is and how much product you have used on your hair, the kind of product you use. Of course, if you use more foam than gel, the shorter your drying time will be. If you use more gel, the longer time your drying time will be. So it kind of depends, but typically the range is 20 to 45 minutes depending on the thickness of your hair.